Welcome back, everyone. All right, so if you want to go and obviously we've made a plate here. Let's go ahead and let's make a bowl. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to push delete here. I'm going to go to cylinder here, and let's actually bump up the vertices to 64 here. Um, this we can bump it up to 64, or we'll just keep it at 32. It might look a little bit choppy, but usually I like to make at least my models be working in some kind of game environment. Just because if it can work there, it can work anywhere else. So if you make it look good there. Let's go ahead. Let's scale it S and then Z to scale along the Z axis here. All right, and let's hop back into edit mode or tab into edit mode. Let's hop into phase select here. And what we'll do is we'll push E to extrude, and we'll scale that in. E to extrude, scale that in, and then E to extrude, kind of like that. Okay, so now we have the bottom of the bowl. Now, at the top here, we can actually do two things. Let's push E to extrude, and I'm just going to move it up something like this and scale it out. Now we could in theory just leave it like this, and that is actually a perfectly acceptable bowl, although it's not hollow, but I'm going to get to that in a second. So we can actually probably even call it a day if you like that look here, although I'm looking for a more rounded look. So in order to do that, I'm going to push E to extrude, scale it out just a bit, E to extrude, scale it out, E to extrude, scale it out. And if you really want to, you can actually push 3 or 1 to work at each view if you want to on the numpad, and we can just push E to extrude, scale it out. And what people do here is they try and match this angle, E to extrude, and then we can kind of scale it out. And what this does here is that this will make the bowl a little bit more round. And I'll scale that out a bit, and maybe just one more, and there we go. So you can see here that this bowl looks quite a bit different. Okay, not too bad here. Now what we need to do is we need to go and there's actually two ways we can do this here, but one of the things that we can do is if we go E to extrude, right click, and then scale this in. Okay, and I'm just going to push E to extrude and go kind of actually more than the bottom here. Now this here is something that you shouldn't do or ever produce. I'm just doing this to make sure it looks a little bit better here. And what this is that technically this top bit is through the bottom, and this is an impossible shape. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to simply move it in, and you're going to see the method to the madness here, and then I'm going to bring that up here. So now we have a bowl here. The only reason I did that is to make sure that it worked out correctly. Now you can go and you can scale this in as much as you want, but I actually like that here. And you can see that, like, if I scale this out, eventually you can see that it kind of meshes, or you can see that the mesh looks a little bit weird, and that's when you know you've made an impossible shape. So it needs to be within here, and there we go. We have a nice little bowl here. Okay, I'm going to tab back into object mode, and you can see here that this looks, pretty pixelated, but if I were to put this in a game, it would be good. And if I was to put it in a mobile game, and by the way, mobile games have a actually a lot less resources than their console counterparts. So if I was doing this in a mobile game, I would definitely make this bowl way less intense. So I'm going to add in a subdivision surface modifier, and you can see that if I add this in maybe 4 times, maybe 5. Yeah, and you can see, by the way, when you know when to stop when it doesn't look too much different. And there you can see that the bowl looks really smooth. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to tab back into object mode, apply that here, and you can see that, wow, there's a lot of vertices. And you're probably wondering, and the video capture is probably making that really laggy, and the reason is that this takes a lot of computing power to compute, believe it or not. I'm going to undo that. And I'm just going to get rid of that modifier because I don't necessarily need that here, okay? And that's how you make a bowl here. Now, one of the things that you need to know how to do if you're, whether you're learning Blender or learning to code or Photoshop or whatever, is to do to do whatever you to make sure you do a lot within that program. So if you want to stop the video, make 10 different kinds of bowls. I could do that in the video tutorial series, but I want you to make 10 different kinds of bowls. Make them look different. I'll see you guys in the next tutorial.